I've often said, you know, you would not want to cross the Princess Royal, Princess Anne. I've said that, haven't I, chums? Yes, you're all nodding. I love her, as you know. I think she's terrific. I really do. The thing that you can imagine is whatever Princess Anne took on in whatever role in life, whether it be a teacher or a headmistress or something of that caliber, she would be able to make you behave. Mike Tyndall told me that, you know, she's a lovely woman, but you just wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of her. I think a little bit like her father, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip. I love Prince Philip because he said it as it was. You know, remember that famous lineup where they were taking the picture and he said, come on, just get on with it, you know, because there's this elderly guy waiting to have his picture taken. He's thinking, I've done this for years. Let's just get on with it. The Princess Royal's a bit like that. Now, this time around, it appears, oh yes, it was going to happen, wasn't it, that Prince Harry has locked horns with the Princess Royal. Who do you think is going to win? As ever, let me explain. Morning, nice to see you, chums. Thank you so much for joining me today. And as ever, welcome one and all new subscribers. It is lovely to have your company. And thank you, by the way, for the lovely comments regarding the ghosts of York and sort of some of the churches that are now repositioned and reused or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of churches, though, in York. Incredible when you think, almost on every corner. And all of them with a wonderful, fascinating history. And as I've often said to you, what I find interesting for me is the fact that, you know, these people, they do this sort of thing and you know, they repurpose them. But I often look and think, what was it like for all those communities in that area many years ago? This would have been part of it, wouldn't it? Absolutely. Now, let me tell you this particular story, which I find particularly fascinating for me, is the fact that if you are Prince Harry, you really are a bit dumb to do this. Anyway, here's where this story gets really interesting, because as you may or may not know, the Princess Royal, Her Royal Highness Princess Anne, made a very discreet, without much fanfare, visit to Ukraine and met with President Zelensky. Now, as you know, President Zelensky and, of course, Ukraine, difficult times right now, whichever way you look at it, but he's been back and forth to the United Kingdom, meeting with previous British Prime Ministers like Rishi Sunak and, of course, His Majesty the King at Windsor Castle. And there's lots of debate exactly what's going back and forth. However, in this particular instance, I would say the Princess Royal once again was doing the right thing. She was visiting a terrible situation regarding, I won't say because it's too upsetting, but for children who sadly lost their lives, and to commemorate them at a memorial, etc., alongside the First Lady of Ukraine. Now, according to a very good source, you see, this apparently had been in the works for some time, back and forth, you know, because obviously these visits are of a highly difficult sort of strategic move. You have to think of security, where you can go at what time, when is it safe, etc. Now, a joke, but you know, the Princess was a tough cookie, right? We all saw that last year when she had the terrible situation regarding the kick in the head from the horse. So the thing is, Anne's not easily put off. But according to a source, somebody tells me, and as ever I have to say allegedly, that this particular visit, as I say, had been batting around for a while. And very quickly, if you remember, Prince Harry, on his recent return back here to the United Kingdom, suddenly zipped off without fanfare, popping up in Ukraine. Now, as I told you at the time, what was strange, I found, was the fact that there was no record of this or no discussion and all that sort of stuff. But then there was no real picture. Now, there's a lot of documentation on this visit because clearly Ukraine want the world to see this story, particularly attached to a royal that's very much revered. Harry met limited people, and this was sort of knocked together around about the Invictus Games. Still worthwhile and still very worthy, but that for me had very much a publicity stunt, whereas this is very much focusing on what it should be about. Now, I'm not suggesting in any other form that there's some skullduggery. However, it did seem odd, and apparently inside the palace walls, people are circulating basically saying, well, who said what and to who, simply because at that particular point, Harry's visit was put together very, very, very quickly. And this is something that hasn't gone unnoticed, of course, by people that matter inside palace walls. Once this no doubt gets through to the Princess Royal, one might suspect she's going to be less than thrilled. You get the picture. Neil Sean, Kensington, London.